Okay, so hi, I'm here with Dennis here, who was kind enough to agree to an interview with me after I scoured the internet for interesting people that would have something interesting to say to me in a conversation like this. So, Dennis, if you wouldn't mind, introduce yourself to the world. Who are you?
Hey, and first of all, thanks for having me. My name is Dennis, Dennis Bagstavold, but online I go by the nickname Defur, or Defur if you're from America. I am a streamer, and I stream a lot of competitive games, mainly the game Nintendo ARMS, which is on the Switch console right now. It's a fighting game, and so I compete there. I commentate tournaments, and I also stream it. Sometimes I stream other stuff as well, but that's mainly my game, and that's what I focus on. I have a team surrounding the game, and I host tournaments now and then. So I'm very involved with that game, you could say, right now.
Nice, sweet. If we go back a little bit in time, I'm just curious to see or to hear about how did your relationship to gaming begin?
Wow, it's a big question,
It's a
but
big question, but
yeah.
just those the golden nuggets from your childhood.
Yeah, okay. So, Final Fantasy VII got me into games from the beginning, but it's when it came to esports, I got into Team Fortress 2 when I was a teenager, and I was heavily involved with that. I was one of the top players in Sweden, and I played with some of the players that now are really good in Overwatch. I'm not though, unfortunately. But stuck around with StarCraft for a long time. Couldn't really get well or good at that game, but I really enjoyed just being around esports for a long time. And now, lately, I just decided that I wanted to like adopt ARMS as a game and just like
Oh, nice.
become.
Give it a room in your house. Just let it stay with you.
Yeah, exactly. So I just like went all in with that, and besides that, I've studied games at university, and I lived in Japan and worked with games. So I've been like my entire life is games basically. So it's kind of hard to summarize, but I hope that
Right.
covers
What's
it.
life? What is a game?
Yeah,
Basic line.
it's just the same
Yeah.
for me, really.
Yeah, which as it should be. Maybe I don't know. Maybe not the rougher games. Maybe I don't want to live in Player Unknown's Battleground, but
Yeah,
there's a few other
no.
ones that'd be pretty nice. But you mentioned that you were in Japan and
Yeah.
you lived over there for a while. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I study the game design and project management, and our last course was to have an internship. And so I tried to, instead of compete for a role in Stockholm or in Sweden, I thought I'd do something special. So I contacted companies in Japan, and one company just said, "Sure, come here."
Ah,
I
nice.
got an internship there at a indie game company in Tokyo and I had that for about 6 months, and then I was offered a job there. So,
Oh, really? Nice.
yeah, so
Congratulations.
thanks. And well, I don't work there anymore, but I worked there for around a year, and then I thought, I want to kind of move back to the cozy Sweden kind of work culture. Not not gonna go well too into that, but there's a lot of parts with Japan that's like more challenging than others.
Right.
But I stayed there for 1.5 year, and I
Do you
came
speak
back.
Japanese?
Yeah, I speak a bit of Japanese, so that was one of the difficulties. So, and it was a Japanese company, so yeah.
Right, in Japan. Did you know any Japanese before you went there, or did you just go there because their gaming scene is well developed?
Yeah, so like, if you're into games, you know that Japan is one of the big countries, and it's always been one of my dreams. I said Final Fantasy, so I wanted to go there someday. And
That was your fine. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I learned a bit of Japanese by myself before, and I took a few courses, like night courses. So watched a ton of anime, and then
Good
yeah.
education.
But the kind of deal that we had at the company was that there was two Americans there. One of the Japanese guys spoke a bit of English, and one Japanese guy actually spoke fluent Swedish. So
No shit.
yeah,
Swedish.
yeah, he that was. I got really surprised because they surprised me at the interview. They just like, hey, and here's a guy who speaks Swedish. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so they were like, we're trying to learn from each other and had that kind of
Wow,
sort of a deal going in.
cool.
So not expecting me to be fluent, basically.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's
Yeah.
Japanese. Okay, nice. Did you make good friends with the guy who spoke Swedish?
Yeah, actually, like so he actually taught me Japanese for the first 6 months, every like almost every morning, in Swedish, by the way, which I'm like still trying to be like that's it's so impressive to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's luxury.
but yeah, and he came to Sweden not too long ago, and I met him, and yeah, it's a very like unique bond, but I really
Yeah, for
appreciate
sure.
him, and he helped me out a lot.
Nice. And then you moved back to Sweden and you got involved in this arms game.
Yeah, so I was streaming on and off when I lived in Japan, working with games. But when I came back to Sweden, I got this, offhand like job working hourly at like an Apple store,
Hmm.
and so an E3 rolled around, and I saw this game called Arms, which was announced at with the Nintendo Switch lineup, and I just fell in love with the game and decided I've streamed some like few games, some let's plays. Now I'm just gonna go all into this. I'm like hungry for esports because I was into it when I was
And
younger.
this was before you even played the game. You were like, I'm gonna commit.
Yeah, exactly. I just decided like I'm going to be a member, and I'm going to be like a well-known community member in this game because I know from doing like designs and stuff like that, I would just like if I just powerhouse into this, everyone's
Hmm.
just gonna have to accept me whether they want to or not, basically.
That's good. Go in with force.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's been going well. Like I'm not kind of a hated. I'm okay. That made this sound me
You're
like
not the
a
dictator of this
no, I'm
community.
not like the
No.
villain in the scene or anything. Like I'm really trying to push it and stuff like that too. So, but yeah, it's taking a lot of time, but it's a passion project basically.
And you have a community around you. You have a clan, you said, or a team.
Yeah, exactly. So it all kind of grew unexpectedly. So I was just like, maybe I'll do some videos and stream it. They had this like beta phase where they were opening up the game for like 1 hour at a time, at really odd hours. And so I streamed those, and then eventually I was like, hey, I've always wanted to do a podcast. So I made a podcast centered around the game, and it's been growing. But then I got some followers for that podcast, and eventually they were like, "Hey, everyone likes this podcast. Why can't we play together?" And then, whoops, I
Oh,
have an esports team. Uh,
no
so,
way! From the
yeah,
people who listen to your podcast came together.
yeah, exactly. So we were like one of the guests was really into the game, and then two of the viewers that were like watching every show, they were just like, I just you know put two and two together and just like, hey, let's try to make a team out of this. And now we have a team, and the podcast is growing. And
Are you all from Sweden?
no, actually not. So I'm kind of the odd man in the community because I'm one of the few people in Sweden that plays this game. So
All right.
it's a very
Yeah, full
global.
disclosure, I hadn't heard of it before you mentioned it.
No, exactly, and that's fully understandable. So I'm one of the few Swedes in the game. I know a few of them, but and I can for certain say that I'm the best Swede. So
Yeah.
that makes me happy at least. Yeah, but it's a very global community, and now in my team we're 6 players, and it's me from Sweden. Then there's 4 guys from America who don't know each other from before, and then there's one guy from Pakistan actually.
No
Um,
way, nice.
yeah, so we're all sitting and talking with each other. We had 2 tournaments this past weekend where um, 2 of my teammates actually got into the finals of like one tournament, uh,
Nice.
and then one of the guys actually went to the finals of a tournament the day after.
Huh.
So yeah,
Do you
I'm
play
I'm
together or do you play solo?
so in Arms, it's a 1 versus 1. It's a fighting game,
Right.
and there are 2 versus 2, but it's a very like casual mini game kind of thing.
Right.
Kind of like Super Smash Bros. If anyone knows or if you know
Hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so it's a one versus 1, but we kind of practice together and learn strategies or like loadouts. I'm not sure. It might sound really abstract because if you don't know about the game. But
Every game when you don't know of, yeah, for sure.
yeah, but
Go ahead.
yeah, basically, so the game is it's a fighting game where you have the camera behind the character. So it's not a 2D like Street Fighter, and it's not a street or like Tekken where you move around on a 3D plane. You have your camera behind the character, and then the main mechanic is that your arms have turned into springs, so you can like shoot them away. So it's like a boxing
Classic.
game. Yeah, you know the Japanese, they have their crazy ideas.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and so every character has their own abilities. Like one guy can like release a shockwave to like bounce punches away. Someone can do like a double jump. Someone can turn into goo and like go into the ground. It's just like and then you turn like you can customize your loadout. So you have like 3 arms per match, and you can like switch those arms around. So there's like thousands of combinations. So it's a very
Right.
kind of there's a lot of depth in that sense, basically.
Which ones do you usually go for? What's your loadout?
So I'm the character that's like on the front of the game, who's called Springman. So his arms are spring. Even his hair is like a spring. And he is kind of the default character, like the character that's just like the vanilla of the vanilla. Like
Mhm.
he has all around like speed, kind of good strengths. He doesn't really have like a lot of weaknesses, but the thing is he
Mhm.
has no kind of particular strength in that
Right.
sense. So he's
Yeah.
just a good all around character, and I kind of just tried him out, and then I got stuck with that character, and then I'm just like, okay, this is my character, I guess.
That it is.
Yeah,
You choose them and then choose you.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you've been organizing tournaments and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so I want to really push this game and make it kind of bigger and uh, grow it basically. And one of
Yeah.
those ways is like I want to do the podcast to let people know that there's actually a lot to this game. There's so much to talk about. People are so surprised when they're just like, "Oh, can you have a podcast of 2 hours for this game?" Yeah, you can have like every other week. There's so much to talk about. And another thing is to kind of let people know that there is like competitive players in this game.
Right.
So we've been doing like live streaming kind of tournaments, and I've been live streaming while I'm participating in tournaments as well to showcase to others. I think my highest finish was like 8th in a bracket of 80 people or so,
Nice.
which was I'm actually the worst player in my team, but I blame it on that I do so much admin work.
Oh
But
yeah.
but yeah, so that's one of the things. Like I do the kind of tournaments, and I host like crew battles, which is basically
Right.
if anyone comes from like Overwatch or League of Legends, they're gonna know that there's clans facing each other. There's 5 versus 5,
Yeah.
and I actually came up with like a format for that in a fighting game where you're 5 players from each team, and then you fight each other, and then if you lose, you get eliminated. So the team that has like last man
It
standing
snowballs.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been doing that. I hosted France versus Canada, and
Well,
we even had my team face another team as well, and those kind of things basically.
how's the spectator value? Is it good to watch?
It's kind of hard. Like sometimes it can be really good, sometimes it can be worse. Some people were like not liking the game at all when it first got announced. It looked so gimmicky and for fun
Mhm.
kind of thing. And when people hear fighting game, they're just like, because they're just like, it can be esportsy.
Right.
But then they had the tournament there on E3, and people were saying, "Oh, this looks kind of crappy." And then the guy who won the tournament, basically because everyone was so bad at the game, when it just got released, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so the winner of the tournament was standing there with his trophy, and then the host said, "Hey, can't you play against the producer of the game?" And this, like skinny Japanese producer guy was standing in the back.
Who were there? Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
and he was there, and so he faced the producer of the game, who was so skilled at the game. Like he was showing off so many stuff, like from the mechanics. So people got
And
so into it. No, sorry, what were you gonna say?
this is when he's holding when he's like, I just won for being the best,
Yeah,
and then they bring out the producer.
yeah. It was like the final boss just came out on stage and just
Yeah.
like brought him back to earth. And so I think unlike other fighting games like Super Smash or like Street Fighter, even Marvel, if you know about that game as
The
well.
Injustice one?
Yeah, Injustice, exactly. They're so technical that it's really hard to see what's even going on. Like,
Right.
you'll see the commentators just like going nuts, and you have no idea what's happening. Like,
Yeah.
things are flashing on the screen. In Arms, it's a very kind of things are more simple in the way that it's just like you box. That's the main
Right.
concept, right? Um,
You can read what's going on.
yeah, exactly. And from that perspective, it's just like very simple. But then when you get into the details, it's just like, oh, how the guy is doing his footsies, how he's jumping, how he's
Yeah.
moving around is it basically grows on you. But the first perspective could be very like, oh, this is too simple. But
Mhm.
that's where I'm here to like prove them wrong, basically,
With a 2 hour a week podcast about the finer details of this masterpiece of a fighting game,
amongst other things. Yes.
amongst other things. Yeah, it's a good title. So scaling back the picture a bit, just a more general philosophical level. What role does gaming play in your life? Like, what is your relationship to gaming now? Why is it an important part of your life?
Yeah, it's a good
It's a
question.
massive question again. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
No, but it's something that I've been thinking of a lot, and for me, I think it's different for everyone. Yeah, first of all, I think there's no like one answer to it, but for me, gaming has made me. It took me from this like introvert, nerdy guy who was just like being in this like world, and helped me kind of develop. Like some people use football, some people use other hobbies to grow as a person, and for me that was games. So I led teams into tournaments. I had to like communicate with people from other countries. I had to speak English quite regularly, which is not my native language, obviously. And so for me it was just like you know learning about getting in contact with people from across the world. It's like it's such an amazing thing, like when I think about it in that way. It's just like but yeah, and then of course there's just the smaller details of challenging yourself and
Mhm.
um, you know kind of how could I put it, like controlling and handling your emotions, like
Mhm. Yeah,
um, when you get angry in games, like what do you do? Like how do you act? What does that do to you? How are you
yeah,
against other people? Like if you lose against someone, are you angry at them? Why are you angry? Like there's
yeah,
so many of those kind of things that I really love about games just in general. So
yeah, yeah. I agree. It's challenged me and it's taught me so many things about communication and interaction with other people and with myself. And these,
yeah,
why do these frustrations pop up? Why do I feel this way when I get killed in this game? And yeah, and you get to experience all these amazing places and adventures and stuff in company with other good people, which is, I mean, the reason you and I are talking here is because of games in one way or another,
yeah,
which is
exactly,
amazing.
yeah.
And so my final question for you is in the same spirit as the last one, and that's the future of gaming. What do you see that as? And we can talk on a scale of 5 years in the future and 100 years in the future. Obviously, that's impossible. But what
Mhm.
do you think the future of gaming looks like?
So all right, let me think for a second.
Yeah.
So gaming has become really global lately. Like maybe 10 years ago, you wouldn't even know about the word esports. And today, it's just like people are going across the world to play other people in games. It's becoming possible to play with people from across the world, even from your home. Like my team is based with. I'm the only one from Sweden, but I play with Americans and people in Asia, and it's possible. Like it's not like a complete experience. So, but it's really good now. And so in 5 years, I'd like 5 to 10 years, it could become perfect. Like if internet, becomes better, you can play anyone, you can communicate with anyone, and I just it's that and kind of the availability of everything. Like it's getting easier for people to stream. It's getting easier for people to develop games, to get in contact. Everything is there for you. You can just like choose to be in it. Before you had to like actively like challenge yourself to get into the game. Like I remember you know, being in trying to figure out IRC channels and like trying to get a hold of people to get games in,
Yeah.
and like you had Ventrilo. It was like the most terrible user experience ever, and I'm just like, I know people from the 90s who are like complaining at me. So I think everything is just gonna go much smoother, and there's just gonna be a lot more availability, and the kind of global aspect is what I'm mostly looking forward to.
Yeah, just getting everyone into this amazing party. Yeah,
massive
I
community.
agree. Okay, that's all the little bullet points I have on my nice list here. So thank you so much, Dennis, for
Thank you.
providing me with this interview, and best of luck with all your arms things, which I will study more and maybe even listen to a podcast episode or two. Now we'll start with one. We'll see how that goes.
All right.
So yeah, thank you.
Oh, Big Shot coming back here for another video, huh? Oh yeah, you want to see another video? Well, you better freaking subscribe.